Excuse me. I'm not sure why it's not coming up on my channel, so I'm just going to refresh it here and say welcome. Welcome to tonight's live stream. I should come up with the live streams called Contradictions in the New Testament, which we're going to start tonight. It's absolutely going to be more than one live stream because there's so many of them. I have a list of 100. That's weird. Not on here. Yeah, that is weird. It's not on my live streams. So I'm not sure where I'm streaming to. Maybe out to planet Neptune. I don't know. That is weird. Not sure why it's not coming up. Hopefully I'm not streaming on another channel right now. Let me look. I can't even look on that. Well, we'll just see if anybody shows up. Because I don't see I don't even see it on here. Try to refresh it one more time. I might have to shut this off and try it again. Let me see here. Up here so I can see a little better. It says that we've been going almost 2 minutes, and so it should be up here. That is weird. Okay, well, I can't even look at the comments because it's not coming up. So I may have to shut this down and try again because I don't know why it's not. I don't know why it's not coming up on my. You know what? No, it says live. I'm going to say, I wonder if this is recording, but no, it says live. Actually, that's so strange. Anyway. Oh, hi, Dee. Okay, so I am live. Okay, that's good. Good to see you tonight, Dee. Thanks for coming in. It's not showing that I'm live on my channel, so I'm not sure why. Anyway, but if you're here, I must be live, and the show will go on. Because we're going to start a series on contradictions in the New Testament. And it's going to be it'll be several live streams. So several parts to it. This will be part 1, I guess. Yeah, weird. I know my live stream's not coming on. But if you're here, it must be happening. Oh, there it is. Look at. After how long? After 3 minutes and 45 seconds, it came on. I've never seen it take that long. That is weird. I have a light on behind me. I should shut that off. That's a stove light. The doggy's dinner is done. I didn't feed him yet, though. How you doing tonight, Dee? Are you having any of that bad weather? I haven't seen it on Ryan Hall, y'all. I haven't seen some bad weather. And I think it's southeast United States. But anyway, crazy weather. Actually, we have really good weather here. We're in the 40s, and we're even going to hit a couple 50-degree days. So that is a big relief since we're in the single digits, and we were below zero for a while there. So anyway, 40s and 50s feels like a walk in the park. Much nicer. You're doing okay, the weather? The weather's been okay? Yeah, it looks like it's right now it's in the southeastern United States. some quite a bit of storms. So you know, guys know. Do you know Ryan Hall? That's what I watch also. But there's a new guy. Well, I don't know if he's new, but he's new to me, and his name is gosh, I can't remember his name. But he's got kind of a snazzy weather name. I can't remember. Like if he was a girl, his name would be Stormy, you know what I mean? But it's a boy anyway. He's got kind of a catchy name, but I can't remember. It's so catchy, I forgot what it was. But he has pretty good. He's got pretty good weather stuff too. So now I got two other channels I watch. But I'm telling you that Ryan Hall, y'all, he is spot on. Yep, he outdoes the weatherman out there on the TV. All right, so tonight, now hopefully, D, I can still see your comments. Now, some people here might look very familiar. Because over the last 8 years, we have gone over this a few times. It's actually not 94 contradictions, it's 194. And actually, I could add 10 to this and take off 4 because there's a few of them here that are not contradictions. I could explain that they are actually... It's one of those things I can't, like a pseudo contradiction where I can't remember the exact name, but it's where it seems like a contradiction, but it's not. Well, especially when the scripture's talking about being saved and all that now, or and having a chance at everlasting life and all that, as opposed to after you die, then there's no chance of redemption, stuff like that. So sometimes it seems like contradiction, but it's because it's before and after death. Anyway, we'll get to those when we get to those. But so I could probably, I could explain away a few of these, but out of 194, yeah, maybe a small handful can be explained away, and then on top, so you maybe bring it down to 190. But then I know of several contradictions that aren't even on here. So I personally could add at least 10 more. So we could easily make it a list of 200. This list has been around for a while. I'm trying to make it level. I don't know. Something's crooked here. There, maybe that's it. This list has been around for a while. And this is on a PDF. All you have to do is go to Google and type in 194 contradictions, and you will see a PDF, and that's what this is. And it just, it's 11 pages. It's quite long because each one is about that long. And then you got number 2. Oh, it's actually pretty long. Then you have number 3, section 3. Anyway, there are 11 sections like that, and it still gets up to 194. So I'm going to put a link to this in the chat. Let me copy and paste that. So I'm going to put the link to this in the chat. In case anybody wants to check that out. Copy and paste that. Now, I'm just going to stop. All right, there it is. There's the link in the chat. Archive.org. Okay, and then if you click on that link, or you can just do it yourself, go to Google. This is the list that you're going to come up with here, 194 contradictions. Now, let me see if I can move this thing a little bit. I have a temporary thing because I have I'm doing this on my newer phone that I got last year. My other device was too outdated and YouTube will not support it anymore. So now I'm doing it on this phone here. So I have a new holder, which is just temporary. Because I ain't dealing with this thing every time. This thing is ridiculous. Anyway, I'll get something better. Hopefully like my old style one. So my old one was like kind of like a microphone stand. So it was real sturdy. And it just, you can put it anywhere. This one you gotta clamp it to the side of the desk. And I have, this is an executive style desk. And if you know what that is, it means that there's nothing to clip it onto. So there is no edge. The edge is about a half inch. So anyway, not really made for the old school desk. I mean, it would, you know what would work good on? A table. That would work good on a table. But it's not really working too good on this. I got my... Anyway, we're just going to make do for now. And one of these days I'm going to go Walmart. It's quite a drive from here, so I don't go very often. But one of these days I'm going to make the hike and look for one. Or maybe order one online. Oops. That's usually quicker than me going there. All right, sorry about that. Now hopefully you can see this. I can blow it up a little bit. You know, the size of the writing here. Now let's get it. Oh, it's only 85. That's not very much. See, now I can't do it too big or otherwise it goes off the page. It doesn't like correct itself like sometimes one will. All right, so let me check back into the chat because I don't think my comments are working on here. Okay. You think it might rain tomorrow? Well, it's spring rain. I know people in the southern regions are planting gardens already. Not us yet, but yep, so some people would probably be happy to see rain if they're planting down there. All right. Now, all right, as you can see in front of us, I put the link in the chat there. 194 contradictions from the New Testament. And it starts out with the four Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. Then we're going to get into Acts. Down here, you'll get into... So as you can see, it's Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, contradicting each other. And sometimes these books actually contradict themselves. So then after Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, after the four Gospels, of course, you have the book of Acts, Acts of the Apostles. So that's around here. And then you get into the letters from Paul. And Paul has lots of contradictions. And as you can see, one passage can have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 contradictions off of one passage. So as you can see, as you get into the letters from Paul, boy, whew, they contradict. And as you can see, what does Paul's letters contradict? All the Gospels. Sometimes he contradicts his own self. And this is Luke, so could say the Gospels, same authors of Gospels. Then he contradicts himself. Yeah, he pretty much contradicts himself, or he contradicts the Gospels. So it gets even more, a lot more contradictions when you get into Paul, because Paul does his own thing. Paul writes his own rules, so there's lots of contradictions there to be seen. So, all right, now I think I have the comments on here. I think I have them, so when you type in, it should come up on the screen here, because I'm not on my page right now. So I'm going to go through some of this, and if I don't see any comments in a little bit, I will check back at the page to see if anybody has commented. So I'm going to make sure I'm not missing anything. Now, to some of us who have been here for years and years, I've been here for 8 years. We've gone over this a lot. So if you've gone through this, just be patient, please. Hey, Grace. Welcome to Grace. Comes in with style. Good evening to Grace Styles. So yeah, some of us have been over this series, you could say, because this is going to be more than one night to go through this. It takes several nights to go through these, because I have something to say about a lot of it, as you can imagine. I can't just read it and then go on to the next thing. You know, I do have comments, and I have a lot to say about a lot of this. So obviously, it's going to take a while to get through almost 200 of them. So bear with me if you've been through this before. But hopefully you'll think of it as a nice refresher, because it's been a while. Maybe every couple years we go through this, and it's been a while. It's probably been a couple years. I don't know. Oh, speaking of it, you just found out my young niece passed cervical cancer. Oh, wow. She must have been young. I'm so sorry to hear that, Grace. I was just going to tell the story about Larry the lobster dying, but I won't say that. Under 30. Oh, my goodness. Isn't that crazy how the young people are getting, diseases that used to be only for old people? Gosh, I'm so sorry to hear that, Grace. Oh, my goodness. So was that your brother's daughter? I'm guessing? Your brother's daughter? Oh, my condolences to you and everybody, your whole family. I'm so sorry to hear that. Gosh. It's really tragic is the children dying before the parents, and young people so a lot of times they'll have young children they leave behind, which is traumatic to the children, Gosh, I'm so sorry. I didn't know she had that. I'm sorry to hear that. That is so sad. Not even 30 years old. 30 years old seems like a lifetime away from me, and I'm sad when people pass away young like that, but hopefully it's something that her soul planned, as I believe. Sorry to hear about that, Grace from D. Yeah, I'm sorry, Grace. That's terrible. You just found out tonight? Gosh. Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. Oh, that's terrible. Thank you, D. I'm shocked. My ex's niece. Technology no longer related. Oh, technically no longer related, but still her. Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, even though it's still your niece, whether you're married or not. Yeah. Doesn't change anything there. Gosh, I am so sorry. I can't even imagine. I was just thinking about my brother-in-law the other day. He died in an explosion. And I was just thinking about him, how he died at like 28 years old or something, or 29 years old. And I thought, wow, I've already lived twice as long as him. And I just think, gosh, I hope that somehow is fair to him. You know what I mean? Because I believe that the soul already knows how long you're going to live when you come to Earth. If it's going to be 5 years or 10 years or, stillborn or, 60 or 80 or 100 years old. So it's like, there's at some point where so I believe if she planned on being here around 30 years, maybe a little less, then at some point the soul knows that, and you will get sick or get something will happen. If that don't take you out, something else will take you out. It just, but it's, and if that was taught and everybody believed it, then I think death would be a lot easier to take, especially tragically young people that die. That's sad. So young. But yeah, I don't know. I think it'd be easier for people to grasp. Some cultures barely grieve at all. I think they get it, But our culture is just, it's devastating. I was just thinking I couldn't even get out of bed for 2 weeks when Spencer died. I couldn't even get up. Grief is horrible. She had been sick, but no medical insurance. Went to the hospital a few hours before she passed. Really? Did she know she had cancer? Yeah, good old American health insurance, huh? I think usually people, they have to treat you. I don't know. I don't know how it works. So she passed in the hospital. You know what? That might have been her soul not wanting to pass at home, because sometimes that bums out the family, Somehow she got to the hospital to pass there. I don't know. I believe that our soul plans this stuff and we don't even know it. Oh, well, condolences, Grace, to you and the family. It's terrible. Yeah. All right, let me just double check here what kind of setting I have this on. Oh, come on, there you go. I'm gonna pop this onto live chat so I get all the comments. There. Right now, peace and she felt no pain. So yeah, it wasn't a long drawn out sickness. All right. All right. So let me see if I got a couple of these tabs ready, because I'm going to all right, now where are we at here? 23 minutes. Okay. All right. So I already put a link to this well, it's a PDF. I was going to say a website. To this PDF about the contradictions here. There's 11 pages. And there's actually, if you Google it, there's a couple sites you can click on. This is the one I always stick with. So, all right. Now, as we recently discussed, Matthew and Luke were written after Mark. So the first gospel that was written was Mark, then Matthew and Luke, and then much later John. Now, it seems to me that Matthew, and it is kind of obvious that Matthew is the original, and Mark is the original. Gospel Mark is the original, and they know that by dating and all kinds of reasons that they know that. And Matthew and Luke seems to have taken the Gospel of Mark and kind of springboarded off of that and added some stuff that was, I'd say, like Greek mythology, because they were Romans. Obviously, the Gospels were written in Greek, so Gospels were not written by the disciples themselves. There's a lot of reasons why they weren't, but you can tell just by reading them that these are definitely not Jewish people that wrote these Gospels, by no means. And of course, the Gospel of Luke, the author of that also wrote the Acts of the Apostles. So you have a lot of the Greek mythology influence into these Gospels. And a huge thing that you'll notice is that they are trying to turn the Hebrew Messiah, and they're trying to turn him into like this Greek god that's a lot like Dionysus. It's a lot like a lot of those Greek gods at the time. And one of the ways they try doing that is turning the Messiah into a Greek god and turning the Messiah into a demigod. And therefore they had to later on, they had to add this virgin birth demigod story on top of Mark's story. And there is a problem by doing that, adding anything. If you have a story, you write a book, and then later on you decide to add this big section of a new story, the problem is it really doesn't jive with stuff that you wrote earlier. And one of the examples is in Luke. And in Luke, Joseph and Mary have no idea that Jesus is the Son of God. Now how can they have no idea? And then, earlier, angels came to both of them, to Mary in the Gospel of Luke. But either way, Matthew and Luke both have an angel coming to them explaining that this is a virgin birth, which is very Greek mythology, but it's going to be a demigod baby. And so if that really happened, which I believe was added later, because that doesn't jive with the part when Mary thinks Jesus is a lunatic, which is an insane person. Mary and Joseph have no idea that Jesus is from God. Now, see, that's where you have a problem. You can't later say that this is God's kid and Mary and Joseph knew about it, when part of the story, they have no idea, but they were supposed to have been notified during her pregnancy. So by the time he's in his 30s, they should have been well aware for 30 years that he was God's son, right? But all of a sudden they're acting shocked why he's acting the way he is. So anyway, so the story kind of, there's problems with the story when you add something later. And this is, this is how the police get in an interrogation. I watch a lot of those crime shows where they interrogate people and they question them and the suspects. And yeah, their stories don't make sense because they add something to the truth. And then the whole story is shot. You know what I'm saying? And that's what happens a lot through here. So I'm going to touch on that when we go through it. All right. So I guess we'll start at number 1. And we've gone through this recently too. Number 1 says Jesus' lineage was traced through David's son Solomon. Now, And this is in Matthew. But in Luke, Jesus' lineage was traced through David's son Nathan. Now, why would Matthew and Luke even bother to speak about the lineage? Well, because in the Old Testament, the Messiah is supposed to come from the lineage of King David down through his son Solomon. Now, if the more you study the Gospels, the more you realize that the authors of the Gospels don't really know that much about Jewish traditions and Jewish laws and all that kind of stuff. And so the more you study it, the more you'll see it. They have a very weak understanding of Jewish, pretty much the Old Testament. So this is their attempt at following the Old Testament, you could say the Hebrew text rules on how the Messiah is supposed to appear. And it's just a human being. It's not a god or anything like that. But the Messiah to come, there's rules and guidelines. And probably the first rule of thumb for the coming Messiah of the Jewish people is that this Messiah has to be a blood descendant from King David through his son Solomon. Now Matthew got that part, the Solomon part, right. Luke didn't. Luke knows it's supposed to be to David's son, but he put Nathan and not Solomon. So right there, Luke's is invalid right off the bat. Matthew's is invalid too, because neither one of them got the lineage right, and I'm going to show you that. But they're trying real hard to prove that Jesus qualifies as the Messiah in one of the qualifications. So right off the bat, Matthew and Luke. Now, this is not in the original. Absolutely not, because Mark was not trying to do the Messiah thing. He wasn't trying for that. But Matthew and Luke are trying for that. So they're both making their attempts, and I'm going to show you what it looks like when you do that. And if you don't have any basic understanding, here's what they came up with. So let me shrink it down a little bit. So here is, hey Trib, how you doing? So here is Matthew and Luke's attempt to show that Jesus is coming from the bloodline. But you know what? This is all null and void if you are going to make a case that Jesus' dad, his father, was God. Because then you cannot do a DNA or whatever you want to call it, a bloodline, a family tree. Jesus's dad has to come from a family descending from King David through Solomon. So Matthew Matthew actually starts at Abraham, and Luke actually starts at Adam and Eve, which, I can say a lot about that, but I'm not going to waste time. Here's where they both kind of pick up on the same page. Matthew has David, Solomon, Rehoboam, and all the way down, which is close, all right? Luke has David and then Nathan. Now remember, David had more than one son. Solomon was one son. This was King Solomon, and this is where your Messiah is supposed to come down, his bloodline. But he also had the son Nathan. And I'm pretty sure Nathan is the one that, did bad things to his sister and then told her to leave the house. Yeah, that Nathan. So Luke screws up by trying to have Jesus come from the Messiah bloodline of David, but he has it go through Nathan. So as you can see, once you go David, Nathan, See, this is more Nathan's bloodline. And if you go David through Solomon, this is Solomon's bloodline. So they're all different, but they all try. They try to end at Joseph and then Jesus. Joseph and then Jesus. Now, one of these is Joseph, the husband of Mary. And the other one is Joseph is supposed to be Mary's father. But neither one's going to work if you're trying to say that God is Jesus's daddy. Then Joseph, Mary's husband, or Joseph, Mary's dad, is not going to cut it. You can't have it both ways. You can't say Jesus' dad was God and Jesus' dad was Joseph. You can't. You know what I mean? So anyway, this is where there's a huge problem. By the way, neither one of these lists is correct. They're totally trying to wing it here. Not doing a good job. So both of these lineage is no good. No good. They just wasted their time trying to prove that Jesus came from the Messiah's bloodline, and therefore he must be the Messiah. So they're trying to put right off the bat, check this off the list that Jesus came from the right bloodline, which you can't say that if it's because they go by the daddy, and if daddy's God, then your point is mute right here. All right. So anyway, that's crazy. Next, number 2, the announcement of the special birth came before the conception in Luke. And the announcement of the special birth came after the conception in Matthew. And I'm going to tell you the difference here. You'll always know the difference. Luke, whoever wrote the Gospel of Luke, he favors Mary. The world revolves around Mary. Mary this and Mary that. Mary. Matthew, nope. Matthew revolves around Joseph. All right, Joseph. So when Luke talks about the stories, the announcement of the special birth came to Mary. Why? Because that's Luke's favorite. And in Matthew, who do you think the angel announced the birth to? To Joseph. Okay, so that's consistent through the Gospels. And when you get to John, he can't stand Mary. He's never once mentioned Mary's name, the mother Mary. Calls her that woman, or he's very derogatory. But Luke, the world revolves around Mary as far as the story goes and how wonderful she is. And then in Matthew, you're going to see the story revolve around Joseph. And then, so from right off the bat, the angel comes to Joseph in Matthew, and the angel comes to Luke. But in Luke, the angel tells Mary before she gets pregnant, and this there's a problem here too, big problem. And this is also what happens when you add something to the story, because now your story don't make sense. So if they both were notified by angels that this is God's child, then why is there problems down the line thinking Jesus is out of his mind and this and this and that? They have no idea that Jesus is from God. You know what I mean? Anyway, Jesus' parents were told of their son's future greatness in Matthew and Luke. And also in Luke, the second chapter of Luke, Jesus' parents knew nothing of their son's potential. No idea. And in Matthew, the angel told Joseph about the pregnancy thing. You know what I'm saying? And I've got something to say about this. And then in Luke, well, of course, who did he tell? The angel told Mary, because Luke likes Mary. Now, this is a problem. This is a big problem. Because think about this. You know, I mean, in one of the stories, Joseph is ready to quietly divorce the wife who he's not even married to yet, by the way. But somehow he's going to quietly divorce her when he finds out she's pregnant. But the angel told Joseph already and told Mary already. I mean, anyway. Number 5, there were 28 generations from David to Jesus in Matthew. And in Luke, there was 43 generations from David to Jesus. And I just showed that chart. Where is it? I think it's over here. Yeah. So one is 28. It's got 28 people between David and Jesus. And Luke has what? 43 people between David and Jesus. So yeah. Mostly because this is Solomon's bloodline and this is Nathan's bloodline. And you can see, go by each name, none of them match. No, there's no mistakes or contradictions in the Bible, is there? But yes. And again, what is Luke doing? I'm going to go show you real quick. I'm going to prove my point 100 times. Where is it? Yeah, there it is. What is Luke doing? Luke is going the bloodline that makes Mary look good. See the asterisk here? Heli, I think, is Mary's grandpa or dad or something like that. Joseph, this has got an asterisk here because it's either the dad or something. But as you can see, Luke again, Luke is favoring Mary in the bloodline descendant, and Matthew is favoring Joseph in the bloodline. Do you see the routine here? See the theme? Matthew always favors Joseph. Luke always favors Mary. All right. Next. Jacob was Joseph's father in Matthew 1, in that bloodline we just showed. And Heli was Joseph's father. That's why I said Heli was actually Mary's grandpa, which would make sense. And then Joseph was Mary's father, which would make sense until you say, wait a minute, but you can't have mommy's bloodline for your descendants. You can't, okay? So this would be disqualified. It sounds good until you find out that Heli was Joseph's father. You see what I mean? So it sounds good, but you can't have... The Messiah can't come through the mom's bloodline. Let's just put it that way to make it simple. All right. Number 7, he was to be called Emmanuel, remember, in Matthew 1:23. And by the way, well, I'll just read this. He was to be called Emmanuel, remember, in Matthew 1:23, 1, 2, 3. But he was called Jesus in Matthew, 2 sentences later? They said he's supposed to be called Emmanuel, but he was called Jesus. Now, wait a minute. What happened here? Well, I'll tell you what happened. Again, the authors of the authors of Matthew are not Jewish, and they don't know anything about any of that. They know a tiny little bits. And so what they did is they tried to quote something out of the Old Testament. I can't remember if it's Isaiah or what. I could look it up if you want. But there is a Old Testament prophecy about somebody called Emmanuel that will be born, but it was Emmanuel with an I. Emmanuel with an I. And that was to be born, but he wasn't going to be the Messiah. He was going to be a prophet, and he was born, and he was some king's son. I can't remember. But anyway, so this already happened. This is a prophecy that already was fulfilled, and it was not for about a Messiah, and it was Emmanuel named with an I. But they're clumsily trying to put this in as making it part of a Messiah when they just actually... It's embarrassing because, 2 sentences later, he's not called Emmanuel at all. It was called Jesus. So what happened to Emmanuel? They should have just left this out, okay? Because it didn't make him look like a Messiah. It just should be raising eyebrows. And then I remember reading that thinking, well, nobody ever called him Emmanuel. Not even a nickname. Not even the guys, nothing. A lot of people had their names changed. Peter into Cephas, or Cephas to Peter, whatever. Simon, because he was the rock. Petra meant rock. So a lot of people's names got changed, but yeah, Jesus never got his name changed from Emmanuel to Jesus or vice versa. So never once called Emmanuel. So I'm not even sure why they would even put that in there, because they're misquoting the Old Testament. Anyway, I just said that. I'm going to keep moving. Joseph, Mary, and Jesus. Now, I've discussed this many times. All three of them had to flee to Egypt while Herod slaughters all the males under 2 years old. Now, here's something to note, and I've given my theories what happened here, but anyway, so somehow, you remember Mary and her sister Elizabeth were pregnant at the same time. And remember, they hugged and the babies leaped in the womb, and that's the first time John and Jesus met, because they were cousins, right? So Mary and Elizabeth both have their babies. Elizabeth has John the Baptist in the spring at Passover, and Mary has Jesus in the fall. And then all of a sudden, though, Herod wants to slaughter all the children under 2 years old. Well, what happened to John the Baptist? How did he come unscathed? How come he didn't have to go to Africa? Yeah. Jesus had to go to Africa so he wouldn't get slayed because he's under 2. Well, John the Baptist was under 2 years old too, but yeah, anyway, it says, note, Jesus' cousin John, John the Baptist, he was also under 2 and survived without having to flee. How'd that happen? Joseph and Mary and Jesus did not flee Egypt, but remained for temporal rituals. No slaughter of infants was mentioned in Luke. So in Luke, it's just a normal story. They go down there. They have the baby in Bethlehem. They had after 8 days, they have the temple ritual where he's circumcised and all that stuff. And then they go back home. Not a big deal. But in Matthew, you've got this like Indiana Jones, this big old 2 year, at least 2 years that they're on the run refugees and stuff like that. Oh man. And you know what that is? That's all to try to make Hosea 1, is it 1:11? I can't remember, 11:1 something. That Hosea said, my son, what do you say? My firstborn came out of Egypt. Well, if you read the second sentence, he's talking about the Jewish people. So again, misquoting scripture. All right, next, number 9. So it's 2 completely different stories. Luke's baby, Jesus being born story, and Luke is that's like one story, and Matthew is a completely different story, not even close to the same story. When the original didn't, what's funny, because the original was Mark, and that had nothing about the birth of Jesus. Mark picks up when Jesus is already in his ministry at 30 years old. And all of Paul's letters were already written before any Gospels. And of all of the Paul's letters, there's nothing about this miracle birth or Jesus in a manger, nothing. So all the books that Paul wrote didn't mention nothing about, none of this, nothing about Jesus' birth at all. Nothing, childhood, nothing. All of them were written. Then Mark was written, nothing about Jesus' baptism. Nothing about Jesus' birth. Nothing about that. And then the last 3 books that were written, I guess you could say 4, Mark, Luke, John, and Acts, all of a sudden, well, not Acts, we'll just say the other Gospels were written, the very last books written, all of a sudden, Daddy is God. You see, how come for 30 years, nobody mentioned anything about this until the very last books were written? Well, maybe because it wasn't fully taken over by the Romans by then. And anyway, so number 9, and this is actually, we just got on to page 2 now. Jesus was tempted during the 40 days in the wilderness in Mark, and Jesus was tempted after the 40 days in the wilderness in Matthew. Now, I can see him being tempted during the 40 days because, that's when you're hungry and all that stuff. But after the 40 days, he was in the wilderness. It's like, I don't know. Makes more sense it was before. That was the original story. The devil first took Jesus to the pinnacle, then to the mountaintop in Matthew. But in Luke, the devil first took Jesus to the mountaintop and then to the pinnacle. And I guess that's not that big of a deal, but it is a contradiction. I guess the bigger problem for me in this Jesus temptation in the wilderness is, if he already owns everything, then how can the devil tempt him with the kingdoms and everything in the world if Jesus already owns everything in the world? That makes no sense. You can't have somebody come over to my house and tempt me to buy my soul with my own vehicles and my own, house and my own property and my own animals. You can't tempt me with my own stuff. And that makes no sense. So how can you tempt Jesus if he owns it all already? Makes no sense. How can you tempt somebody with their own stuff? Makes no sense. So Satan tempted Jesus in Matthew, Mark, and Luke. But in the Gospel of John, which was, written way later, and Matthew, Mark, and Luke are called the Synoptic Gospels because they're a little bit on the same page. But John, he writes basically his own religion. John has his own religion, his own Bible, right? He's out in left field. He just does his own thing. But in the Gospel of John, Satan has no interest in Jesus. No, he's not even going to bother. Actually, that makes more sense, though, right? John's probably like, wait a minute, why would Satan tempt Jesus with his own stuff? John finally got it. Probably after all the complaints came in, from the other Gospels. Oh, by the way, which weren't even written because, they didn't have printers and stuff like that. The people at this time in the first century, they don't have these books. They don't have none of this written down. And if you're going to trust anything, I think, what they would have been better off? They would have been better off saying that Jesus wrote all this stuff down. But they told you Jesus didn't write nothing. He wrote in the sand that one time. That was it. With his finger. But other than that, he didn't write nothing down. And he's the only one that knows how to read and write. So if he didn't write nothing down, the only one that knows how to read and write, what would make you think the rest of them wrote something down? I mean, if anybody wrote something down, it would have been Jesus, and he didn't. Anyway. Number 12. The baptism of Jesus was with the Holy Ghost in Mark and John. But fire was also added to the baptism in Matthew and Luke. And you know what else? The same with the, not just the baptism, but the, in the gospel of John, fire came through the window at the end of Gospel of John. The gang, all the disciples, after Jesus died, they were in the upper room, and a wind came and flame came through the window, and the flame went on everybody's tongues. In one of them, let's see, that was in the book of Acts. So in the book of Acts, a flame comes through and goes on their tongue, and they start speaking in tongues. That's in the book of Acts, and that's how they got the Holy Spirit in the book of Acts. Although you got to say, wait a minute. we already got the Holy Spirit in the book of John, just like 2 pages before that. So in the Gospel of John, they're sitting there after Jesus ascends or whatever. Jesus is dead. Jesus comes, walks through the door, and blows his breath on everybody. And then said, now you have the Holy Spirit. So in John, they got the Holy Ghost, Holy Spirit, by Jesus blowing on them. And then for some reason, 2 pages later in the book of Acts, I think it's chapter 2 or whatever, they got the Holy Ghost by fire coming through on their tongues. You know what I mean? So that's a big contradiction right there. Like, you know how many times I read that before it dawned on me? Wait a minute. Why are we getting the Holy Ghost again in Acts when they already got it in John? Now they're acting like they don't know nothing about it. Anyway. So, number 14, Jesus begins his ministry after John's arrest. This is really interesting. It's such a different story. The original Gospel of Mark, Jesus begins his ministry after John goes to jail. Remember that? John goes to prison. He's in there and he's, John actually, and it's so weird because John actually is not really sure if Jesus is the Messiah, because John's like, well, at that point when John is in prison, they're not really sure if Jesus is the Messiah or not. But in the Gospel of John, Jesus is still walking down the road, and John sees him and already sure right now he's the Messiah. There he is, the Lamb of God. Like, he hasn't even spoke to him yet. But somehow in the Gospel of Mark, John's in prison, ready to die, and he still doesn't know if Jesus is the Messiah or not. You know what I mean, come on. But it is weird though, because in the Gospel of Mark, the original, John gets arrested right away. Well, Jesus gets baptized like everybody else or whatever, and then John gets arrested and Jesus kind of like takes over. But in John, Jesus begins his ministry before John's arrest. Remember? John's baptizing people. They're baptizing people. And anyway, and it kind of just fades away, remember? He's got to be less, so Jesus is more, and all that stuff. But yeah, it's a big bang in the original. He's gone right away. Anyway, 15. It is recorded that Jesus saw the Spirit descending. And this is funny. They're talking about the baptism of Jesus. When John the Baptist baptizes Jesus in the Jordan River. And it's so different from each gospel, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. It's so different. And if you look at the progression of the gospels from Mark, then to Matthew, then to Luke, then to John, there's always a progression, you know what I mean? Like the story gets taller down the line. You know, it's like a game of telephone. So each gospel kind of add a little more, and then add a little more, and then add a little more. But Mark is the original on it, so it's kind of a little plainer, you know what I mean? That's why it's only got 16 chapters instead of 28 or whatever. But anyway, a good example of this is the baptism of Jesus. And it's funny because the baptism of Jesus starts out, in Mark, it's just like, Jesus is baptized like everybody else. And then, Matthew and Luke, they're getting like, hey, wait a minute. Jesus is holy. Why are we baptizing him? He should be baptizing us, And then also in the way that what happened during the baptism, at first there was a little muffling and nobody heard it. And then, then somebody heard God's voice. And by that fourth story, it's like God shouted from the heavens, "This is my son who I'm well pleased." That was the fourth biggest story. But that baptism story grew bigger and bigger as it was told. in the 4 Gospels. So it was recorded that Jesus saw the Spirit descending in Matthew and Mark. All right. Jesus saw the Spirit descending. Remember? It was like a dove or whatever. It is recorded that John saw the Spirit descending. So at first, Jesus is like, oh yeah, he saw it. And then by the time you get to John, not only everybody saw it, or John saw it and also heard it. And it's just like the book of Acts when the story of Paul, it's just like there's 3 versions of that road to Damascus story, and they're not even close. They're different. And anyway, yeah, they just cannot get their story straight. All right. So the baptism of Jesus is quite different in the 4. The heavenly voice addressed the gathering in Matthew, which is, I think it's funny. The heavenly voice only addressed Jesus in Mark and Luke. So in Mark and Luke, God spoke to Jesus, okay, during the baptism. Hey, son, good job or whatever. So it's just like the heavenly voice spoke to Jesus. Jesus heard it. But when you get to Matthew, oh, everybody heard it. The heavenly voice addressed, so everybody heard it, right? At first, it's just Jesus heard it, only to himself. Then as the story grows down the line and gets to Matthew, Matthew said, oh, everybody heard it. Everybody there heard it. Okay. And then immediately after the baptism, Jesus spoke 40 days in the wilderness. Jesus spent 40 days in the wilderness. Immediately after the baptism, remember that? In Matthew and Mark. But in John, 3 days after the baptism, Jesus was at the wedding in Cana, and that's where he did his first miracle, turning the water into wine. So, yeah, wait a minute. So after the baptism, did Jesus spend 40 days in the wilderness like Matthew and Mark said? Let me see. Okay, so Matthew and Mark said that he spent 40 days in the wilderness right after the baptism, immediately. But John said 3 days after the baptism, he was turning water into wine at the wedding in Cana. Remember that? Can't both be true. All right. Number 18. Let me make sure I'm not missing your comments here. Actually, I'm just going to check your comments over here because I can't see them on here. Can't see them on the phone. I just can't. I call him Lord, not sister, but cousin. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I said sister. Yeah, it was Mary and Elizabeth were cousins. Yes, you're right. And so Jesus and John the Baptist were second cousins. That would be. I can tell you that I know what I know, and I know Jesus. All right. Pause. Job was to get the early church going. Satan was a punk. You know what is funny? Everybody accuses Satan, but that's not what's supposed to happen. Satan is supposed to be the accuser, not the other way around. People aren't supposed to be accusing Satan of stuff. He's supposed to be accusing you. It took a while for Jesus to figure out how humans act. Well, why would he do that? I mean, if he's God, and you made him. If I made a robot, shame on me for not knowing how it runs 2,000 years after I made it, Or no, that would have been 4,000 years after I made the robots. I still don't know how they act, Then that's the manufacturer error. You know what I mean? Oh my gosh, it scared the crap out of me. Look like a ghost. I got a cat out here, a new cat. Look at it. You can see it's all white like a ghost. Where is that thing? There, look at it. Does that look like a ghost or what? Oh my gosh, I think that's the red cat. I don't think it's white. That cat looks creepy. There you go. Oh, he's walking really slow too. That's creepy. All right. All right. It is on the prowl. It's being really creepy. It's like walking super slow. You're not a Trinitarian? Yeah, the Trinity, that's Calvinism, isn't it? Also the predestination thing. John MacArthur. All right. I think I was on 18, wasn't I? Let's see. Yeah, here's 18. All right. 18. Let's see. We'll get through the 2 pages and I'll stop. All right, 18. Jesus went to Bethphage and Mount of Olives, then left for Bethany in Matthew. But in Mark and Luke, Jesus went to Bethphage and Bethany at the Mount of Olives. Yeah, Bethany is not at the Mount of Olives. Right? Because the Mount of Olives is at the right the Kidron Valley there, and then Bethany would be at the. I thought Bethany was on the way to Jerusalem at the top of the Sea of Galilee. I'm trying to picture the map in my mind, and yeah, I don't think this one would be right. What, Bethphage, Mount of Olives, then left for Bethany. Yeah, that sounds more like it, maybe. I don't know. I'd have to look at the map. But anyway, this one of these is way off. Oh, and here's a third one. In John. John's got his own route planned out here. Jesus went to Bethany and then Jerusalem. He skipped Bethphage altogether. I mean, he might have went to Mount Olives. They just said Jerusalem. He just ballparked it. John just ballparked it. Ah, heck, we're going to Jerusalem. Work out the details when we get there. All right. Jesus, 19. Jesus and his disciples taught at Capernaum. That's in Mark. By the way, this, yeah. You know, though, they have Capernaum also. Yeah, they have Capernaum. Jesus and his disciples taught at Capernaum. I think they also have Capernaum in John, in the Gospel of John, because that in the Gospel of John, Jesus actually had a house in Capernaum. But anyway, in 19, Jesus and his disciples taught in Capernaum. That sounds right, because Peter lived in Capernaum right on the lake on the Sea of Galilee there. And then in Luke, it says only Jesus taught in Capernaum. And that is definitely not right. Definitely not right, that about Capernaum, because this is where Peter's house is. And they say this still that they have the remains there. They built a Catholic church on stilts right over the top of Peter's house, but there's rocks that look like it was a house, and that's supposed to be Peter's house on the Sea of Galilee there, right in Capernaum. And that was kind of like the headquarters, and they went there. As a matter of fact, here's another reason I know this is false, because when they went there, Peter's mother-in-law was sick, remember? And Jesus healed the mother-in-law, and the mother-in-law immediately got well. She got up and started serving them. That was handy, huh? You feeling better, woman? Yep. Then get up and serve us dinner. Yeah. So, and in one of the stories, that might have been another story, but remember there was one of the stories that might have been Tabitha. I'm not sure. One of the stories, they have Jesus going in the room by himself, and another one, they all went in. But anyway, so I specifically remember that Peter's mother-in-law is the one that he healed, but that was at least Peter, possibly Andrew too. Peter was chosen with Andrew, that's his brother, by the Sea of Galilee in Matthew and Mark. But in Luke, Peter was chosen with James and John by the Lake of Gennesaret. Okay, here's where I'm gonna call here's where I'm gonna say that this is not a mistake. Out of the 194, this is the one that is not a mistake. The first part might be Peter was chosen with Andrew, and that's his brother, by the Sea of Galilee. Peter was chosen with James and John, which also could be true. Maybe Andrew wasn't there. Because remember, then he said, we found the Messiah. Remember, Peter ran and told Andrew that they found the Messiah. But anyway, later. But anyway, Peter was chosen with James, and that's fine. But the Lake of Gennesaret is the same as the Sea of Galilee. The Sea of Galilee has 3 different names that I know of. It's the Sea of Galilee. That's what it was called back then. Then it was also changed to the Lake of Gennesaret a little bit later, like probably when they're writing these Gospels. And it was also called Lake Tiberias because Tiberias was the governor. So they changed Sea of Galilee to Tiberias to Gennesaret. So there's 3 names for this. So this is not a contradiction. It's the same exact lake. Okay, and Andrew chose Jesus and then got Peter to join. Yeah, I remember that. So Andrew chose Jesus and then ran and told Peter that he thinks he found the Messiah. Remember that? I don't know why, because all he did was saw Jesus walking on the beach. Anyway, so Peter was number 21. Peter was to preach to the Jews in Matthew and Galatians. But in the book of Acts, all of a sudden, Peter was supposed to preach to the Gentiles, which is funny. That was the sheet coming down with the animals in it. That people think it's okay to eat all the animals because of that. Oh, man. Oh, goodness. How a church can go with that story and these. Anyway. 21. Peter was to preach to the Jews. I just did that one. Okay, 22. Jesus cured Simon Peter's mother-in-law after he cleansed the leper in Matthew. Remember that? That was at Capernaum, at Peter's house on Lake Tiberias, Galilee, Gennesaret. Or did Jesus cure Peter, Simon's mother-in-law, before he cleansed the leper? And yeah. Was it before or after? I don't know. They can't decide, but that's not a huge thing. I mean, if it's perfect word of God, that would have been the same. So this is a little one. Not a big deal, but still a difference. Was it before or after he cleansed the leper? And did he wash his hands? Number 23. Peter's mother-in-law was healed before Peter was called to be a disciple in Luke. But in Matthew and Mark, Peter's mother-in-law was healed after Peter was called to be a disciple, which makes a lot more sense. And not because you got 2 of them saying that. Sometimes that's a little clue. But it makes more sense because Jesus was over there because Peter was a disciple. Duh. Why would Jesus be there if he didn't meet him yet? Or after he wasn't even a disciple yet? Remember, he met either him or his brother Andrew on the beach. Either way. Anyway, so yeah, some of these just really, I don't know why they would even say something. James and John were with Jesus when he healed Simon Peter's mother-in-law. In Mark. And James and John were not with Jesus when he healed. See, this is what I was just talking about this. Because there's 2 stories about this. I mean, there's 2 stories where Jesus goes in the room and sometimes there's just one person in the room, or sometimes he tells them to leave and whatever. But this is one of those stories. Like I said, I can't remember if this was Tabitha, Dorcas, or who it was. I can't remember. I can't remember who it was. Oh, it was the mother-in-law. Okay, never mind. So yeah, so the mother-in-law. So in one of the stories, like I mentioned a little bit ago, in one of the stories, James and John were with Jesus when he healed, Peter's mother-in-law. But in the other story, James and John were not with Jesus. And it also backs up this up here. Now, why would all the disciples be in healing Peter's mother-in-law if they weren't disciples? You know what I'm saying? So obviously they were disciples. They've already been picked. They're already walking around. Now they're at Peter's mother-in-law healing her. So, but one of them, James and John, were not in the room, and one of them, they were in the room. Like I said, there's two stories like that. One time Jesus was in the room by himself, and the other time there was witnesses with him. So, yeah, this was one of those incidents. And I know there's another one. All right. Almost done here. So Labius is also called Thaddeus, was the name of an apostle, but no Judas, brother of James in Matthew. Judas, as the brother of James, was an apostle, but no Thaddeus in Luke and Acts. And you can do that. You can type in, you can Google lists of 12 disciples, and they'll show you there's a different list for each gospel. They start out the same: Matthew, Mark. Well, no, not Mark. Matthew, Simon Peter, Andrew. Anyway, and the list gets a little fuzzy as it goes on. So they have some of the names the same, but the Gospels can't even spit out the 12 disciples' names that match. So I can't remember if all four of them were different 12 people. They're pretty close, but off. And some people say, well, like this one, maybe Labius was called Thaddeus, and Thaddeus was called Labius, and maybe they got more than one name. I don't know, but they can, should at least get the story straight if it's going to go in a Bible, right? All right. 26th centurion servant was healed between the cleansing of the leper and the healing of Peter's mother-in-law. Yeah. The centurion servant was healed after the cleansing of the leper and the healing of the mother-in-law. I remember this watching the movie and catching this when I watched there's a Gospel of Matthew movie, and there's a Gospel of Luke movie, and a Gospel of John movie. And I remember one time I was watching one of them, and I caught this. Because I thought, hey, wait a minute, this didn't happen last time. But yeah, remember the centurion, he's running on the horse, he's on the horse and whatever. And so that is a little bit mixed up. Was it before? Was it after? Yeah, it is a contradiction. It's not a huge one. It's did this happen before? Did it happen after? And to me, those aren't huge. They are contradictions. They're not huge, but there's bigger ones. Now, 27, the people were not impressed with the feeding of the multitude in Mark, the original. But in John, the people were very impressed with the feeding of the multitude. And in 28, the last one for tonight, after the feeding of the multitude, Jesus went to Gennesaret in Mark. And after the feeding of the multitude, Jesus went to Capernaum, which this is Lake Gennesaret, and Capernaum is on the lake, on Lake Gennesaret. So I don't know, that might just be a technical error. But anyway, that we're going to stop at number 2 here. Go back on the chat and read some comments. Yeah, that cat isn't. I think it's the orange one. I have an orange cat in here. I think it's his daddy. I call him Rusty Cheddarstein because he's Jewish. Rusty Cheddarstein, the orange one here. And he's looking for a home if anybody wants one. Orange cat. He's very orange and very cat-like. All right. You're not a Trinitarian? And I'm not a vegetarian. 80 degrees today. Yeah, well, we're getting up in the 50s here, so we're doing pretty good too. It feels like 80s to you guys. What 80 to you is like 50 to us, so we're about the same. Bethany is about 3 or 4 miles away. Yep. And that's at the north end of the lake, isn't that correct? I ate the fish that came from the Sea of Galilee while I was there. Did you go to Israel? So they got this, I don't know if it's not tilapia. What is it called? They got those panfish there. A lot of those round, weird looking fish, round ones. And then they do have some longer fish, but yeah, I've seen a bunch of them. In fact, not even a month ago, I pulled up all the fish that came out of the Sea of Galilee. I wanted to see what they look like because, you know why? Because if 153 fish broke the net, come on, really? Now, if they're like sunfish, 153 isn't that much. You could almost put that much in a Coleman cooler. You know what I'm saying? I mean, maybe a big Coleman cooler, but this doesn't seem that much. So I just looked at all the fish that were in the Sea of Galilee to see. If they were to pull up a net full of these, how much would 153 be? Because, 153 is actually the what is it? Pisces. What's it called? That's Pisces or something. Anyway, that is the 153 where they got that from. Jesus met them through the Spirit. 70s movies by the Catholic Church, the Mormon Church, and the Evangelical Church. Oh, you think that's where the Calvinism came from? I think that's probably might be what you're talking about. Yeah, it's definitely a Catholic thing. I'm pretty sure. I don't know if Calvin, the guy that did that, was the I don't know who it's named after. A guy named Calvin, or is it Calvinist? I don't know. But that's what John MacArthur used to preach. Predestination. Like, I don't think there's anything sicker than the predestination theory that God designed a baby to grow up and burn in hell no matter what the baby does in its life. It's going to burn forever. Like, what kind of a parent would have a kid that's going to burn forever? Why have the kid at all? Like, is it for kindling? I don't get it. Why would you even have to have the fire at all or burn anybody? It makes no sense. One of these days, I'm going to come up there and get Kitten a cat. She's in need of... Oh, you should, Grace. I have... Let me think of how many I have. I think I have 7 that are up for grabs. I'm keeping the 2 torties that I was going to keep anyway. And then I already have 2 cats. So the rest, I think that leaves 6. So there's 6 of them that are up for... You know what? There's a really beautiful calico. I got to get her fixed before she gets knocked up. A really cute calico. There's one they call the Peter fish. Yeah. I forgot what it's called. Here, I'm going to show you real quick. Let me see. Let's see. Let's see. I'll show you real quick. Pythagoreans, that's what it is. It's Pythagorean. So the 153 is an object in the constellation Pisces, right, which is the symbol of the fish. All right, that's where you get your Pisces. $153 is an object of the constellation Pisces. Anyway, that's where you get your Jesus fish from. Your 153. Let me just pull up the images. I didn't spell Pisces right. There it is. So there's your, here it is. Right here. Well, it's right in front of us here. There you go. There's your 153. Pythagorean. Here, there it is. Vesica Pisces. That's where that comes from. 153. They didn't just pull that number out of the air, the 153 fish. You know what I mean? Hello. That's the fishing number. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you should come up here. And it's really getting nice up here now. Woo! Snow is a mountain. And these cats, Grace, they are so lovable. All of them just snuggled together, and the little baby nurses off of one of the other cats, and it's a boy. And he lays like a mama and lets her nurse off of him, off of his tummy. They're so lovable with each other, so it'd be a good for your dog. And and you know what? They're used to dogs. There's 3 dogs here that they live with, so they're already used to dogs. There's only one they call the Peter fish. I don't know. Trinitarianism is the believing in the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Holy Ghost is one. I believe they are separate entities. Well, they would have to be, because Jesus talks to the Father, and so why would he be talking to himself? So he talks to the Father. He prays to the Father, and the reason he's praying to the Father is because the Father has more strength, the strength that he needs that he doesn't have. He's asking the Father for strength. And when somebody said that Jesus was good, Jesus said, "I'm not good. No one is good. Nobody's good except God, the Father." So he said he's not good, only the Father. And so how can Jesus not be good but be just the same as the Father if he wasn't separate? I'm using speech to text. That's why some of my words are funny. Yeah, that's why I usually use speech to text. But you got to watch it, because sometimes they'll say stuff you don't want it to say. No, nobody's going anywhere. Just calm down. Any hoosers. So not bad. We got through 2 sections. What did I say? There's 11. So this would be a 5-part series. Yep. I could come back tomorrow and continue on this, or come back tomorrow and just have an open chat. What would you guys prefer? Just have an open chat tomorrow, or you know what I tried? For the first time in my life, I tried at Hardee's, because I always stick with the same thing wherever I go. But at Hardee's, I ate a Frisco burger. Have you ever had wait, no, is it a Frisco burger? I can't remember, but it's like 2 pieces of big round toast, and they kind of toast it, and then they put a hamburger on it, and then they put mayonnaise and lettuce, I think. I can't remember. But it was mayonnaise, no ketchup, no mustard, no pickles, which is weird for a hamburger. Anyway, I didn't really like it. In my whole life, I knew I wasn't going to like it. But I had a coupon, and I was up there where the Hardee's is at. And I thought, you know what? I am going to try this with my coupon. And, you know, it's just like if your whole life you know you're not going to like something, and then you try it, you probably aren't going to like it because you already know it. Anyway, I kind of knew I wasn't going to like it, but it was weird. I ate it. It was okay. But just like mayonnaise and lettuce, that was just weird. Might have had tomatoes too. I can't remember. But it was weird. Not like regular hamburger stuff on it. Anyway. So yeah, I tried the, and by the way, this year I'm trying things I've never tried before. The year 2025, I'm trying new things I've never tried before. So far, in 2025, I've tried the chow mein place that's in one of the towns up here. I didn't really like it at all. I tried the pizza at the pub. I can't remember what it is. A little pub in town. I tried that. It was delicious. Loved it. And now I tried the Frisco burger, and I didn't really like that either. So anyway, this year I'm trying new things I've never tried before. And not just food, but other things. So yeah, this is a year I'm trying new stuff. And I've already tried three new things this year. And I only liked one of them, which is the pizza. I hear Mickey D's, French fries, and Diet Coke. Nothing else on the menu is a cure for migraine. Really? Well, McDonald's and other fast food. I've been reading up on this, and I checked it out. And it is true. So McDonald's has a $5 menu now. Well, not really a menu, but there's a meal. They've had it since last fall. So for $5, you can have your choice between a double cheeseburger and a chicken sandwich, I think. And then you also get fries, 4 chicken nuggets, and a drink, all for $5. That's pretty good. And then Burger King has a $5 or a $7 meal. You pick 3 things for $5. 4 things for $7. That's a pretty good deal. Anyway, they're trying to do the throwback. They're trying to get people in because it's so doggone. I couldn't believe it. I didn't go to fast foods for years. I didn't go to fast food. And when I went there, I couldn't believe that the prices were. Oh my goodness. Stuff I used to get for $1 is now like $5. It's just like, oh my God. So 2 people would be like $20-something to eat. Are you kidding? Anyway, I was shocked when I saw the price because I hadn't been there for so long. But I have a friend up here, and sometimes we meet places, and so I have been exposed to some of these places again, and I'm shocked at the prices. So I've checked out. Yeah, they do have some deals. Might not be advertised, but you want the open chat tomorrow? Okay, we could do that. We'll open chat tomorrow, probably 7 o'clock if that works for you guys. Maybe it's the salt and the carbon combo that helps migraine. Are they sure if that works? Because, yeah, I don't know if it'd be the Diet Coke. The French fries, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it might be the salt, the sodium, because salt has sodium. And sodium, you need the sodium potassium. That's when people have heart problems. The sodium potassium gets thrown off. I don't know. I was thinking of you, Kathy, when I invented root beer Snapple. Oh, you invented it? Really? Huh, you should mail me a bottle. Root beer Snapple. I should have a Snapple. I've not had a Snapple in literally years. Probably 2 years at least I haven't had a Snapple. Maybe more. Maybe going on 3 years. I should get a Snapple. I love Snapple. Oh my gosh. Yeah. And stuff, and I can see how that food is addicting. I mean, when you go to fast food and you go restaurant food or whatever. I always feel like I can do way better for cheaper and making it at home. I can have twice as much for half the cost. And make it better. But I'm telling you, like them fast food French fries, them are pretty good. I went a year or 2 without French fries, and man, those are pretty good. I wanted to go right back and get more. I can see how it could be addicting. But yeah, it was pretty good. I told you guys, I also not that long ago went to Taco Bell. Haven't been there in probably 10 years. And I went to Taco Bell. I had a chalupa and a taco. Let's see. Yeah. Not something that, that fast food, not nothing you want to eat every day. Anyway. And not only that, if you only have it like twice a year, then it tastes better and I don't know, it's more of a treat, I can't imagine eating it every day. I did back when I worked in a doctor's office. We used to eat McDonald's almost every day. And I was skinny as can be. But yeah. Anyway, I'm getting hungry talking about this food here. And I got to feed my doggies. Their chicken's done. I made them chicken breasts tonight. And some hamburger helper. Cheesy shells with hamburger. And I don't know what kind of vegetable they're going to have. Anyway, well, thanks for thinking about me. Maybe you could call it Kathy's Snapple beer. Snapple root. But all right, well, I'll be back tomorrow at 7. Thanks for coming on, guys. Oh, today's March 1st. A week from tonight, we turn our clocks forward, you guys. Yeah. Except unless you're in Arizona or Alaska where you don't do that, whatever. But the rest of us, our clocks, a week from tonight, clocks turn forward. And so it will be light until after 7 p.m. 7 p.m. The kitten is patiently waiting by the oven for her chicken. Yeah, my dogs want their chicken too. Usually they have chicken thighs, which I pull the meat off and all that and dice it. But about 4 o'clock today, it dawned on me I didn't take their chicken out of the freezer, so I had to make them my chicken breasts. Which actually they like the thighs better than the white meat. By the way, rabbit. Is that a code word? Are you still there, D? I'm going to plant 2 peach trees. Are ya? I'm planning on doing more fruit trees this year, too. I lost a couple the last few years. So I'm planning on replacing them this year. I don't think we could do peach, though. I don't think we can do the peach. Oh, you're supposed to say rabbit on the first day of the month for good luck for the rest of the month. Really? You know what else you should do on the first day of the month? Do the cinnamon ritual for... You wash your hands with cinnamon. Put your hands under the water and you put cinnamon on it and rub it and you wash your hands. And while you're washing your hands, say, money comes to me in expected and unexpected ways all the time. I have abundance coming in. And as you're washing your hands with the cinnamon, and while you're saying it, and then pat your hands dry, and your hands smell good like cinnamon. And you know what? It softens your hands. It's crazy. But yeah, the cinnamon ritual too. Yes, rabbit. It is an exfoliant. You know what? Because when I get done washing my hands with cinnamon, my hands are silky smooth. Actually, they're usually soft anyway, but wow, when you wash your hands with cinnamon, oh my gosh, they feel so baby soft. Yeah. And speaking of baby soft, you know what I bought? I'm going to try. Somebody was talking about it. I bought some of that Alberta VO5 hot oil treatment for your hair. I remember that stuff. When you put that hot oil treatment in your hair and you let it soak in for a few minutes and then you shower it out, your hair is like you had some type of a salon treatment. It is amazing. Anyway, I ordered some through the mail and it just came yesterday. So tonight I'm going to go and try out my VO5 hot oil treatment on my hair. Oh yeah. You're gonna be soft as a baby's butt, or a bunny rabbit, or whatever it is. Yeah. Well, rabbit, rabbit, rabbit. I always take the good luck, man. You know, Grace, we are Geminis are the sign of well, actually, the year I was born, I'm a rabbit. You know, your Chinese zodiac, I'm a rabbit, and the rabbit is the luckiest of all signs. Yeah, olive oil is good. That's probably the only thing that you should be putting on your skin for oil, because your skin is the largest organ of your body, and it literally sucks everything in like an organ. And that's why you can chop a piece of garlic and put it in your shoe with your bare feet on, and just walk on it with your bare feet. And within an hour, you're going to have garlic breath, because that's how your skin absorbs everything. You know what? My ex-husband was telling me about this thing. I'm going to check into it. He said that he bought this machine that you soak your feet in it. You put your feet in there, and it's some kind of ions or some crap. But the machine pulls toxins out of your body through the bottoms of your feet. Ever heard of that? Anyway, I'm going to buy me one of those. He says, like, the first time you do it, a lot of stuff comes out. It like comes out of your body through the bottom of your feet. Toxins, and you can see it in the water. It doesn't like just clean your feet. It pulls toxins out of your body through the bottoms of your feet. And I forgot what he's called. But anyway, he said he loves it. And yeah, he said I should try one. But it detoxes your body. But yeah, it's crazy. But when you're using lotion, if you should not put anything on your skin that you wouldn't put in your mouth. Seriously. If you wouldn't eat Jergens lotion, then you shouldn't put it on your skin. If you wouldn't put it in your mouth, kind of the same for your shampoo and conditioner. But I gotta draw a line somewhere. I ain't eating that. But yeah, but as far as like softening your hands or anything on your skin, yeah, use olive oil. Yep, Wabbit. Wabbit, wabbit, wabbit. Yes, I am running rabbits. Do you raise rabbits to eat or what? Didn't you say you used to raise rabbits? Doesn't somebody raise rabbits? You grow them to eat them or something? Does it taste like chicken? Well, yeah. Rabbits are cute. They're too close to a cat. I don't think I could eat one. They're just cats with long ears, is what they are, kind of. But, yeah. Running rabbits, across state lines or what? How you running rabbits? Well, rabbits are lucky. They're the hair. Just me, I've been eating garlic. Well, I've had it in my shoes, so. Yeah, put something in your shoe with bare feet and it will come out your breath within an hour or so. That just shows your skin is super absorbent, and that's why. And I always thought, I think that suntan lotion has something bad in it, because only the people that rub that crap on their face get skin cancer. You know what I'm saying? Well, I shouldn't say only, but a lot of those people. Well, they're out in the sun a lot. Yeah, and they're putting that crap on their face a lot, aren't they? Yeah, thank you. Carcinogenic. Yeah. I think that suntan lotion is. I don't think the sun's doing anything wrong. I think it's the lotion that's causing the problem. You know what I'm saying? So, You guys, otherwise, I mean, other than Grace, your tragedy and your family, has everybody had a good week? I had a really busy week, kind of busy, very productive, and good week. Uh, yeah, I'm gonna do a few things next week. Take care of. Now that the weather's getting nice, I still have to bring my truck to the shop or to. I'm just gonna go to O'Reilly's or whatever that auto store is. That you just ask the guy behind the counter to come out and scan your car, and he'll come out and plug that thing underneath your dash, and it'll read out the codes, and it'll tell you what's wrong with your. Because I got a check engine light on now. So yeah, next week, now that's nice out, I'm going to take that truck and I'm going to go to a different town. It's kind of far, and have that scanned out. And I'm going to get out and about. I'm done hibernating. And you guys, it's been like single digits or below zero here for a long time. And now that's nice out, I'm going to get out and do some stuff in the next week. I got out a few times this week. It was nice. It was pretty nice. We got almost all the snow melted. Well, a couple more days it will be. So yeah, I'm coming out of hibernation with all the other bears. I had hundreds of rabbits. Did you? Were they multiplying like rabbits? Yeah. Did you eat them all? O'Reilly ran a scan for me a couple weeks ago. I need a new map sensor. Well, mine's going to be a sensor too. I'm almost sure mine's a SAP sensor. A map sensor is a MAP sensor, and it's a manifold. MAP stands for something like manifold air something. Yeah, it's an anagram for map sensors and manifold air or something. We have lots of wild rabbits running around. Yeah, we do too. Yeah. Good thing up here, because then they'll stay away from the cats if there's enough rabbits. We got hawks and eagles that grab stuff, you know. Pretty soon my cats will be going back outside again. But yeah, I'm coming out of hibernation. I came out of hibernation this week. Good to get out and about and get some fresh air. Run into people again. One and barefooted 11 months out of the year. You are barefooted. You're barefoot 11 months of the year. Yeah. Well, once I put shorts on, that's it for the summer. And we probably have 6 months of nice weather. Maybe 7. But now March came in like a lady at the store told me the other day. I said, "Oh, isn't it nice?" She said, "Yeah." She said March came in like a lamb. And I said, "Well, then isn't it supposed to go out like a lion?" She was acting all happy it came in like a lamb. And I said, "Well, I think that means it goes out like a lion." But I don't know if that always happens. But yeah, it was beautiful. Beautiful. Trip is grounded 11 out of 12 months. It is good to be grounded, have your bare feet on the grass and the dirt and stuff. It's good for people. And that's why the moccasins are good too, because it is not a barrier. It's you're still connected to the ground with leather moccasins. You're still grounded. Now you're not grounded with rubber soles like tennis shoes or sandals. But yeah, moccasins, you are still grounded. It's like being barefoot. Good pair of moccasins are expensive too. I haven't had a pair in decades. Haven't really thought and needed to. But yeah, it'd be nice to have a pair of moccasins again. Yep. Tell you what, though, I have these Birkenstock sandals. I got a few pairs. I'm gonna tell you, you can't get those things wet. You get them wet. First of all, they get slimy, and then they just fall apart. Anyway, you just can't get the leather wet. I've been thinking about buying moccasins. Haven't had any since yeah, me neither. Like I said, it's been decades. I was probably a teenager when I had them. But the moccasins are ground you to the earth, just the same as if you were barefooted. But the rubber soles, you're not grounded. But yeah, moccasins, it acts as though you're barefoot, so you get the benefit of the grounding. My vehicles are so old, they barely have sensors. Yeah. Mine's probably got 3 or 4, maybe 5. You got your, yeah, there's 3. I don't know. And usually it's just easy to change as a spark plug, you know what I mean? Yeah, MAF, MAP, the MAP sensor, mass airflow, yep. Yep, a MAP is a, I can't remember what the anagram was, but yeah. Yeah, it's usually just like a spark plug. You just pull the top off or whatever, but usually you can could change it yourself. Depends where it is. Sometimes you can. Once you find out which one it is. But yeah, I gotta go to O'Reilly's. That's what it is. I gotta go to O'Reilly's and get a scan. And I got a new really good mechanic that I found up here, finally. Anyway, great place, so. Yep. Yeah, I just had work done on my Toyota last week, so. Nice driving that again. It's got heated leather seats. It's really nice when it's cold out to get in something warm like that. Yeah, manifold absolute pressure. Yeah, that's your MAP sensor. That's what it is. I knew it was manifold something. Absolute pressure. That's what it is. Manifold absolute pressure. That's the MAP sensor. Yeah. Yeah, and what some of those sensors, like some of them you'll barely even notice. It'll just be a check engine light. But I had a sensor go out one time, and it might have been a MAF, MAF or MAP. I can't remember which one it was. But every time I went to a stop sign, the car would kill. Anytime you came to a stop, the car would kill. You'd have to like start it back up or whatever. And that's one of the sensors does that too. But anyway, yeah, I'm sure it's a sensor. Pretty sure. But then I'm looking for a car. I'm going to switch over and instead of driving 2 trucks all the time, I'm going to drive a car and a truck. So I'm looking for a car to get back in a car. First time in 30 years, probably. I haven't driven a car. I have nothing but trucks for decades. But yeah, I'm going to get back into a car. Get some good gas mileage again. Although the car I'm buying is probably not going to have good gas mileage. But it'll be better than driving trucks all the time. But yeah, it's true. I've had a lot of vehicle problems with my 2 trucks. Just like one started breaking down, and then I went back to the other one, and that started breaking down, and oh man. So yeah, they both need work right now. Well, not so much the Toyota, but the other one does. My Chevy needs some attention. But well, all right. Well, I'm going to say goodnight. I think Dee might have fell asleep, huh? Is Dee still with us? Anyway, I just want to say goodnight to you guys. I'll come back tomorrow at 7 o'clock for just an open chat. And then I will continue on the... that is weird. I just noticed the title. Look at that. I just noticed they didn't even have my title. Oh well. All right. So I'll be back tomorrow night. Good night to Dee and Grace and Trip Safe and anybody else that came in, hung out or whatever, or if you're listening on the replay. I'll try to keep this one up because it had actual useful information. All right. Well, thank you too. Love you too, Grace. Love, prayers, blessings to you, and I'm so sorry for your loss, and I'm sorry for the family. Anyway, prayers with you. Love, prayers, blessings to you and everybody. I hope to see you tomorrow night. We'll just have a open chat. Anyway, all right, rock on. Peace out. Riverdirty, adios, and all that good stuff. And shalom.